Welcome to National Liberty Alliance's weekly call. Hang on a second here. Welcome to National Liberty Alliance's weekly call. Today is June 10th, 2024. We broadcast live every Monday from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. If you are listening over Rumble or YouTube or another network and you would like to ask a question or make a comment, you can go to nationallibertyalliance.org and click on our weekly call for instructions to join us by phone, app, or browser. If anybody would like to email a question, you can send your questions to questions, that's plural, questions, at nationallibertyalliance.org. Please support our business partners. You can find the banners on the right-hand side of a website of which the proceeds go to support NLA's effort to save our republic. Also, please support NLA by donating $5 a month or more. Click on the donation tab, top right side of our website. Okay, we're going to pick up with our scripture reading. Last week, we were in chapter 9, Gospel of John, chapter 9. Chapter 20. The Gospel of John, chapter 20. Read by Alexander Scorby. Well, haven't got that open yet, so give me a second. And by the way, we got the what do you call it open? The queue open. Everybody wants to get into the queue. Star 6 and 1 if you're on a phone. And if on your app or a browser, there should be a button somewhere to be able to see that.
Chapter 20. The first day of the week cometh Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre, and seeth the stone taken away from the sepulchre. Then she runneth, and cometh to Simon Peter, and to the other disciple, whom Jesus loved, and saith unto them, They have taken away the Lord out of the sepulchre, and we know not where they have laid him. Peter therefore went forth, and that other disciple, and came to the sepulchre. So they ran both together. And the other disciple did outrun Peter, and came first to the sepulchre. And he, stooping down and looking in, saw the linen clothes lying, yet went he not in. Then cometh Simon Peter following him, and went into the sepulchre, and seeth the linen clothes lie, and the napkin that was about his head, not lying with the linen clothes, but wrapped together in a place by itself. Then went in also that other disciple, which came first to the sepulchre, and he saw and believed. For as yet they knew not the scripture, that he must rise again from the dead. Then the disciples went away again unto their own home. But Mary stood without at the sepulchre weeping. And as she wept, she stooped down, and looked into the sepulchre, and seeth two angels in white, sitting, the one at the head, and the other at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain. And they say unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? She saith unto them, Because they have taken away my Lord, and I know not where they have laid him. And when she had thus said, she turned herself back, and saw Jesus standing, and knew not that it was Jesus. Jesus saith unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? Whom seekest thou? She, supposing him to be the gardener, saith unto him, Sir, if thou have borne him hence, tell me where thou hast laid him, and I will take him away. Jesus saith unto her, Mary. She turned herself, and saith unto him, Rabboni, which is to say, Master. Jesus saith unto her, Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father. But go to my brethren, and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. Mary Magdalene came and told the disciples that she had seen the Lord, and that he had spoken these things unto her. Then the same day at evening, being the first day of the week, when the doors were shut where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, came Jesus and stood in the midst, and saith unto them, Peace be unto you. And when he had so said, he showed unto them his hands and his side. Then were the disciples glad when they saw the Lord. Then said Jesus to them again, Peace be unto you. As my Father hath sent me, even so send I you. And when he had said this, he breathed on them, and saith unto them, Receive ye the Holy Ghost. Whosoever sins ye remit, they are remitted unto them, and whosoever sins ye retain, they are retained. But Thomas, one of the 12, called Didymus, was not with them when Jesus came. The other disciples therefore said unto him, We have seen the Lord. But he said unto them, Except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe. And after 8 days, again his disciples were within, and Thomas with them. Then came Jesus, the doors being shut, and stood in the midst, and said, Peace be unto you. Then saith he to Thomas, Reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands, and reach hither thy hand, and thrust it into my side. And be not faithless, but believing. And Thomas answered and said unto him, My Lord and my God. Jesus saith unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. And many other signs truly did Jesus in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written, that ye might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing ye might have life through his name.
Okay, mic test, 1, 2. I just changed my mic here.
You're a little bit low.
John.
Yep.
Now, which is it?
Sound good to me.
All right, maybe you got your volume there, Jen. Okay, do we have any questions for tonight, Jen, or any announcements?
Yes, we have, I believe, 3 questions tonight, John. The first one came up last week on June 3rd on the Monday call. It says we spoke about the school levy, which was pushed through Mercer County, West Virginia, as an item requiring a vote on the primary ballot of May 14th, 2024. Our Mercer County Committee of Safety is seeking a process which will hold the bad actors accountable for not adhering to the codified procedures which were violated during this process. Several violations of procedure have taken place which in effect removed the voice of the people from the ballot process. County officials ignored deadlines, did not notify the people properly, and simply pushed this ballot item through when they could have waited until the general election in November and have followed the proper procedure. So the question is, how do we, the Mercer County Committee of Safety, hold these elected and appointed officials accountable for ignoring feedback from the people through the process of blatantly violating our ballot procedure?
Well, and what committee was they addressing? Did he name them?
No, he just called it the Mercer County Committee of Safety, is the group that he was working with, but this was apparently just the Mercer County hierarchy, people running Mercer County.
All right, well, it depends on how they, proceeded in this. I don't know if they followed the process that we set up. I don't know if they've connected with the sheriff yet and educated the sheriff and did all the necessary things that we've laid out, because that's the beginning of setting yourself up for power and authority. The other thing is process and procedure that we laid out with paperwork as a writ quo wanto or something of that nature. So I don't know the details. I mean, generally speaking, it's just been the regular routine of government at all levels, especially even down on the lowest level. It doesn't matter whether you're in a village, a town, or a county, or the state level. It doesn't matter. They just don't listen to the people at all. They've been totally corrupted. The entire court system is totally corrupted. I've been thinking a lot about the court system because we're getting ready to file our final papers, at least prepare for the filing of the final papers. And I can't find anything good in these judges at all. Every single one of them is guilty of treason, without exception, because they have all unifiedly or in unity, they've all collectively have decided to just abrogate the Constitution, to abrogate the common law. And so it's a pretty sad thing. So if our judicial system is that bad, you know, a country, a nation, a state, a town, a village, they're going to be as just as our court system. If our court system is corrupt, we are a corrupt nation. The people may not be happy with that. People may not have control over that. But we're talking about the people who have taken control of our nation, of our country, whether it be whatever level. It doesn't matter, from the lowest level down into a village level or all the way up to the federal level. It's the same thing. And that's why even throughout the world, I mean, since World War II, we've had, I believe, about 250 wars we've been involved with, one way or another, starting these wars. And again, our nation is as just as its court system. So that's where we're at. So the whole thing begins with really bringing the Committee of Safety into a proper place where, you followed the process, you've connected with the sheriff. And if you have a sheriff, I'll tell you what, I don't think that there are many sheriffs that you can't turn. I know that there are some sheriffs that you're not going to be able to turn because they're just evil. They're part of the problem. I think most of our sheriffs, they want to do something, but they have no clue on what to do. They're totally ignorant to the law. They depend on the county, the county attorney for advice and an understanding of the law. And of course, that's a bar attorney, and the bar lawyers are the minions of the New World Order. The reason our nation is in such a terrible situation and a terrible place is because they have betrayed us. They have worked to destroy our court system, our judicial system. They've worked overtime to get rid of the common law, to get rid of the powers and the authorities of we the people. They've gotten rid of the powers of the writs, or at least they think they have. They ignore our writs, whatever writs they may be. But again, on a low level, that's why you want to start taking government back at the lowest level. You start on the towns, the villages, and of course the county. And once you've got a control on that, there should be other county committees of safety doing the same thing, because in order to take your state back, you have to have at least half the counties of the state, working with the same process and the same procedure, doing the same thing, taking power and authority back. And you can remove these people on these boards if they refuse to listen to the people. And again, as a matter of fact, that's one of the things we're going to be doing, is removing the judges in the courts throughout the entire United States. I've been thinking about this. On a federal level, it's really a mess. But on the state level, it's the same way. They ignore the same things. I don't know if there are any judges on the state level that are honest, that are just, that are applying the Constitution, that are honoring their oath. I haven't found them anyway. And so I really kind of think that all of these judges are really, they have to be really fired, I guess is the word to use. But more than that, they're going to have to pay for all the damages and the injuries they've done. But going back to the question, you can't take it down back if you haven't first made a relationship with the sheriff. And again, educating that sheriff is the key thing in order to do that. And then, of course, you have to have your paperwork in together by what authority, that you act in as far as a committee of safety is concerned. You have to have your resolutions and everything together. And you also have to have the knowledge and to put together, and again, this is all put together in our handbooks, you have to put together a writ quo wanto. And you have to have that in the back pocket when you go and talk to these people. And a writ quo wanto is the most powerful writ of the sovereign. It's the writ of the king, the writ of the people. And if they refuse to obey and listen and respond to the people, then you pass it over to the sheriff, and the sheriff serves. They got 7 days. 7 days, the question is, by what authority do they act? Either they're going to conform, or they're going to tell you by what authority they act. And of course, they can't tell you by what authority they act. And within 7 days, you go through the process of removing them and seizing control of the seats of whatever it is that's involved. Usually, boards, town boards, village boards, school boards, whatever. This is the lowest or the closest to the people. And that's where you have to start. But if you go in there haphazardly and just try to demand things, and you don't have a structure, you're not showing any power, you're not laying out your authority, you don't have the sheriff with you or one of his deputies to serve papers, and you don't apply the process properly, then I can assure you they're just going to ignore you and do what they've been doing to us for a very long time, and that is whatever they want to do. So I'd need more information. Hopefully that person can maybe give us some more information next week, or if they're here tonight, they can pick up the mic, you can get into the queue, and we can discuss it a little further. I'd like to know exactly what the process was that they used. Did they follow the procedure we laid out? And this is why it's so important. We do have committees of safety out there that are not following the process. They're kind of running with the plan, but they're not really educating themselves. And so you have to become educated, at least in certain processes and the powers and the authorities, and by what authority you act, and put all your paperwork together. And like I said, the big thing is getting that sheriff on board with you. So anyway, maybe that person can share more information with us, if not tonight, another time. Next question.
Okay, this person is looking for help and has a question. Has the process to receive remedy for all mortgage payments and interest I paid in returned? I lost my home due to Governor Newsom shutting down my business during COVID. I'd like the home back and the money I paid and the interest on the $863,000 mortgage back.
Well, I believe you're going to get that. I do believe that. It's a matter of time. These people that have seized control of our nation, they've done it quite some time ago. And it goes all the way back into the 1800s. And really it's been going on as far as the struggle with the minions of the New World Order. It's been going on since 1750, when we were colonies. Because they started to pollute and destroy our judicial system back in 1750. We were already under the common law. That's who we were as in the colonies. And as time went on, of course, there's always been that war behind the scenes, so to speak, of taking or destroying not only our judicial process but also our political process. And our founding fathers had set up the committees of safety, and they set up their own process of writing law, and they had legislators and doing what Britain was supposed to work with them to do, and they had to take care of a lot of these problems on their own. But in any event, as time went on, we've gotten to the place where everything has been totally polluted, and so hang on one second. Okay. Anyway, everything is totally polluted. So we've all been injured. We are really been at war and not even realizing it. They've been slowly, over time, eating away at our system, the judicial system, the political system, our educational system, and even our entertainment. They've been eating away at it little by little. And it's gotten as bad as it's gotten today. I mean, when we look out there to see what they're doing, it's unbelievable. All the people that are coming into our nation through our borders, total open borders, a lot of them are terrorists. We have no idea these people, who a lot of these people are. We're starting to see some activity in the streets now. So a lot of problems are going on. But the key thing is this, we've been robbed. And as Trump said, and he said this many times, when you rob the diamond store and you get caught, you got to give the diamonds back. And we're not talking millions, we're not talking billions, we're not talking trillions. we're talking quadrillions. It's just, overwhelming the number we're talking about. They control literally probably 90% of the corporations out there. Of course, they got their tax thing going with, the IRS and all that. It has nothing to do with our government. It's an entity outside of us. So they've been stealing from the people for a very, very long time. But the values of the people, the value of these people is just huge. I mean, all the corporations, if you look at all the corporations that they built and they got going, because we got to take it back. You look at all the property they purchased, homes and islands and just all this different things that they purchased, everything that they own, the gold, the silver, liquidity. They control the banks. They control everything. So when that all gets seized, because that's what has to happen, and that's what's going to happen after devolution, these people are going to be arrested. Many of them will either end at the end of a short rope or in prison. Of course, that'll be a decision of the military tribunals. In most of the cases, in my opinion, I think that's what's going to happen. It's too big for them to go through the process. But this is really war. And these people have been assaulting us for a long, long time. And so it has to be military tribunals, and that'll happen very quickly. Military tribunals move very quickly. But then there'll be other situations. I think whatever's left in the judicial process, let's say, or whatever's left in the courts, anybody that survives in the courts, we're working on paperwork now, and again, to put things together on what needs to be done to bring our courts back to courts of justice. And so in that process of doing that, we're going to discover that some of these judges are going to survive. But the bar is the major problem. And we have the original 13th Amendment. And the original 13th Amendment was ratified in, I think it was 1819 or 1818. And I think it was brought up in 1809. So our founding fathers had added this to the Constitution very early on. And I'm going to read the original 13th Amendment. And it says, if any citizen of the United States shall accept, claim, receive, or retain any title of nobility or honor. Now they have titles of honor. They don't have titles of nobility, because titles of nobility would be inherited. Titles of honor is something bestowed upon someone by those people who have, the titles of nobility. And that would be esquires. All bar attorneys are esquires. They originated obviously in Britain. It's the British accredited, BAR, British accredited registry. Trying to think what year it was that they came out with the lawyers. 1878. 75 lawyers established the ABA. So they went over to the American Bar Association. Same thing, just a different name, because Britain controls quite a bit, a lot more than people realize. And, the taxes on our homes, that you pay every year. And obviously, if you have to pay those taxes and you don't pay those taxes and they take your home away from you, well, then obviously you don't own it. Someone else owns it. And Britain still has a hold on this. It's just part of the New World Order. And that's the process that they had used. But in any event, these bar attorneys, they're not permitted to continue in the nation according to the 13th Amendment. So let me finish reading this. I'm going to start from the beginning again. If any citizen of the United States shall accept, claim, receive, or retain any title of nobility or honor from any emperor, king, prince, or foreign power, such person shall cease to be a citizen of the United States and shall be incapable of holding any office of trust or profit under them. So they cease to be citizens. And if they cease to be citizens, generally speaking, they could be actually deported, cast out of the country. But the bottom line is we have to require, and if we're going to have a just system, come back, Trump, I think, is bringing a just system, at least to the political realm. and it has to be applied in the courts, and that's why we're writing papers and put things together. A couple of weeks ago, we found out that the military had used some of our paperwork as leverage, and this goes all the way back to 20. Let me think about this: 17, 16, 2015, I believe, or 2016. In any event, I think it was 2016. So if the military was using some of our paperwork, so I guess they are listening to us, and we're going to be we have been copying them for a while. We're going to copy them on our next paperwork when we do our next filing. And next filing is going to be when devolution really comes hardcore. That means military is moving. And when the military is moving, that's when we're going to be filing. And on our paperwork filing, we're looking for restitution. We, the people, must have restitution. We have been injured. We're casualties of war. If they've stolen our homes need to come back. They've stolen so much from us. I've been thinking, particularly with all of the inflation and everything lately, I've been thinking about what things cost when I was younger and what they cost today. I know I was my first job, and for quite a few years, I only made $1.60 an hour. That was the rate of pay. It was minimum wage back then. I mean, if you were making $10 an hour, you were making good money. So everything was different. Inflation was at its minimum. But even then, when I was a child and I was growing up in the 50s and the 60s, even then,
John?
That, yeah.
There's one more question here.
Yeah, let me just finish up because this is a big issue, and people need to understand and need to get behind what we're doing. As a matter of fact, I'm working with someone right now to set up another website, 4 pages only, just for the sole purpose of collecting, complaints, looking for people to give us their affidavits and their court cases. For this very purpose. But in any event, yes, you're going to be able to, I believe, be able to be restored. And again, all this money that's been stolen, all of this corporations that have been built out of stolen money, they're going to go up for sale. And the benefit of the sales will go to the people. So there's a lot of money that's involved here that's going to restore the people. More than what America even needs, in a sense, because remember, this isn't just the destruction of America that these people have been working on. They've been working on the destruction of the world, and all these other countries out there, they've been injured too. So all of these, not billions, not trillions, but quadrillions. Okay, all of this money is really going to go back to the people because things will be sold off. I do think we're going to get to a point where a lot of things are going to be free. Maybe permanently, I don't know. It's possible. There is enough money involved here to do this. And the things I'm thinking of is like utilities. I think that's going to become something that's going to be free. And a lot of other things, But again, we the people must be restored, and that's going to happen. I do believe that. So we are starting to collect. We've been doing this for a while anyway, filing papers, and we have quite a few hundred people who have signed in. And we have their paperwork. We filed papers on their behalf. It didn't go anywhere, and we knew it probably wouldn't. A few cases, people did have success. A few mortgages were saved. Maybe in the long term, they still lost it. On just a couple occasions, we had habeas corpuses that actually worked, and we filed quite a few habeas corpuses, and they ignored it all. So they're guilty. They've just damaged people so severely. Everything that they own, I'm talking about judges now, everything that they own, in my opinion, I think in most cases will be seized. I don't know if anybody can escape this. Any of these judges can escape this. But again, being found guilty, everything they own is going to be taken away. And it's got to go back to the people that they injured. So again, I think this is something that's going to happen. I've heard other talk before from other sources that this kind of thing was going to take place. I came to this conclusion purely out of pure logic and understanding of common law. There can be another way. All right, last question.
Okay, I have read John's books on government by consent and court access and the common law. I understand that the NLA offers a court access course, and my question is, can the court access book suffice by itself, or does it have to be coupled with the online paid course to procure a proper education?
Well, yeah, you could do it on your own. The book could be sufficient enough. I think the course adds a lot more. Of course, it covers pretty much everything in the book, but I think it goes further. I think it's much more helpful for a course, but it's not absolutely necessary. That book is sufficient enough to be able to learn and understand the process and, how due process works, how the court system works, which is the due process, and the forms and, writing papers. Again, I think there's a lot more in the course, but the book will suffice. I think the book is really good, as a reference book. I still use this book as a reference book, and actually, most of what I have is in my computer anyway. But the thing is, the forms are very good. You'll find them in the book. How to file a case, all the papers necessary and all the things required in order to file a case, how the procedures work through discovery and so on and so forth, how to make motions and how to properly do that. All of that is part of the common law process. It's been around for a long time, and it's still part of our due process in the courts, even though they're unjust courts, and they do a lot of unjust things, and we don't really get the justice, of course, because they placed us under civil law. But nevertheless, the structure that they use, the process they use, is the correct process. It's just that they polluted it. So anyway, yeah, if you're pretty good at these things, and especially if you have some basic knowledge, if you've got some general knowledge of the court system, then this book would be very helpful, and it's a good reference book. And it could be done without going through the course. Okay, is that it? I think you're muted, Jan. Jan, you here? Anybody hearing me? Am I coming through?
Yeah, you're coming through, John.
Yeah, there are no more questions, John.
Okay. All right. I think we're just going to go right into an open forum. I will talk a little bit about, just give me a couple of minutes. We'll talk just a little bit about traffic. Maybe I'll share this paper next week or so. I've just been too busy to really think about sharing it this week, but we've been doing this traffic court thing, and, I've been doing my own case, and I've been sharing that case. And they did all kinds of threatening things, denying and just ignoring everything. And I moved it into state court, and I was kind of surprised I was unable to just move it into state court. They required me to go out and actually pay for an index number. In New York, it's a little different than most states in the sense that there's two filings that you can get when you file a case. One is an index number, and an index number costs here in New York $210. And then there is the RJI, which is a request for judicial intervention. I never file that because I'm not requesting for any judicial intervention. I'm just filing a case in the paperwork into the filing. They have to respond, and this whole thing could happen without ever dealing with a judge at all. And what happens usually on the other side is immediately they go out, well, not necessarily immediately, but eventually they go out and the other side, they get a little upset with this, that they have to go out and pay for the RJI because they're the ones requesting the request for judicial intervention. And in that process of requesting that, they have to pay, of course, the $95. And then, of course, their whole thing about doing that is because they want a judge involved because they know the fix is in and they can have me thrown out of court, usually under Rule 12 or something. They're always working towards that fact that they just don't want to answer. And they're obliged to most of the time, pretty much almost all the time, the judges oblige them and give them what they want to cast you out of the court. That's a common problem. But in any event, that process, that I had to go through is I filed for an index number and filed my paper into the system and served it on to the other side. And, of course, the process goes, in this case, 30 days. They get 30 days to answer. If they don't, they default. And if they default, we never have to go into a court. We never have to see a judge. Just take it down to the clerk, file an affidavit of default, and then go to the sheriff and start your collection. So that's where I'm at right now with a simple traffic violation. And maybe next week I'll share some of the paperwork, their threats that they put upon me. And they tried to really push this thing quick because, I originally filed the papers and the court sent it back. And they told me I had to go get an index number. Well, first they told me I couldn't file it. I wrote a paper concerning that, and then they responded back, well, you got to go get an index number. So I had to go get an index number. But that never should have been, because if you're in a state court and you move it to federal court for cause, you don't pay for the process to move it into the federal court. It's just moved in, because that's the next step up. Okay, it's like going through an appeals process. So if you're in a town court, which has no authority, and of course I challenge the jurisdiction, that's my position. They didn't have personam jurisdiction. So if you file that what I did is I filed a paper challenging the jurisdiction. They denied all that, tried to move it into state court. That was all denied. So I went and paid the $210, and now it's in the court. But maybe next week I'll share some of that paperwork. We looked at this case, I think twice, two different Mondays. You'll find that under today's issues, come down to NLA Monday Open Forum videos. We're posting all of our Monday night meetings in video also up on Rumble, and I think we're doing YouTube also. I don't remember, but anyway, we're filing it up on Rumble. And of course, we still have all the audios that could be downloaded. You click on Monday Night Call and you can get the list there. But let's see, last week we did a Monday Open Forum. Okay, the week before we did the Writ Quo Wanto. A lot of information on that. The Monday before we did something on EMPs and solar flares and the law. Monday Night Open Forum. Okay, here's one on April 29, 24. We did a traffic court follow-up and, of course, an open forum. So we were sharing some paperwork there, and if you go back, I think it's two more down. Let's see, is it the next two? Another open forum, political process, political parties, how to take it back, how to take back our schools, villages, towns, cities, counties, while growing your committees of safety, and I think it's the one before that. So this would be April 1st, 2024, where we did the town, village, traffic, and administrative courts. So it starts there for anybody who wants to learn a little more. If you missed these things, you can go back and watch these videos. And you can see these three different videos that we put together with giving you quite a bit of information concerning traffic court. And also, like I said, we're going to do at least one more, maybe two, I don't know. I have two papers that they had sent to me. Totally ignoring everything that I'm doing, just pushing me and threatening me with jail and all that stuff. And then, of course, the paper that I filed into the state court, I'll share that also, which is very similar to really the paper that I filed in the court itself, the town court, challenging the jurisdiction, denying the jurisdiction and authority. So, okay, we'll go on to our open queue. Anybody again wants to get into the queue, it's a *6 and a 1 if you're on a phone, and if you're on a browser or the browser that you click on or the app, you can click on a button to get into the queue. So we'll take our first question. Anthony from West Virginia, you got the mic. How you doing, Anthony?
Hey, how you doing, John? That was my question that you answered. I appreciate your concise response to that question. I didn't really get that when I called last week. I think it was because perhaps I wasn't clear enough when I posed the question. But I was always under the opinion that we would need to do something like a quo warranto. I plead my ignorance for not memorizing everything in the Committee of Safety guidelines there. But see, what I'm working with, it's a quasi Committee of Safety. I'm working with this lady who has the ability to gather people together. And she invited me to one of her meetings. And so that's why a few weeks ago I let you know that I was with this group of people and it might turn into a Committee of Safety. So that is still up for grabs. They don't seem to be gravitating towards National Liberty Alliance. But I think what they need to understand is what you just said. We need to establish our authority. And we can't establish our authority without establishing all of the attributes of a real Committee of Safety, because we don't have any of that established yet. I'm calling us a Committee of Safety, but we haven't really met as a Committee of Safety. I'm just trying to use our Committee of Safety to help these people hold the county people accountable who misused or bypassed all of their regulations in order to get this school levy on the ballot. So that's where we are, and so I'm just going to bring that to them. We need to actually establish our authority, like you said.
Yeah,
before we move on.
What we want to do is try to get them out to tonight's recording. I mean, it'll be posted tonight. It's up on Rumble. On our page. You can find it pretty quick. I think we have it on the right side. I know we have YouTube, but we really use Rumble. We don't have many people responding on YouTube. It's been pretty dead over there. But you got our Rumble channel. You can click on the Rumble channel, and you can find all our videos. But as far as the Monday night program, again, you can find that right under today's issues, NLA Monday Night Open Forum videos, and by tomorrow morning, this will be the first video on that page. Let me just click on that real quick. So this will be the first video, and maybe if they listen to this video, they'll kind of get it. And if they go through these videos, they'll also see some information, because we did do a special one-on-one Monday talking about dealing with the towns and different boards, okay? The problem in America here is that we are totally ignorant to the law. We're ignorant to who we are as a people. We're ignorant, and I speak to myself first. We're ignorant to the fact that we are a Christian nation. That's one of the most important things we need to realize, because we're under common law, and common law brings us back to the Bible and the principles of common law, the moral teachings and everything in the Bible. That's who we are as a people, and we have to acknowledge. You don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to believe that. You can be whatever you want. You could be an atheist, but it's the principles and the process that every person, I think, could agree with. Because even people who are atheists, there are a lot of good atheists out there. They've got good hearts, and people of all kinds of religions and stuff, and when it comes to common law is common sense. It's really that simple. But anyway, the major problem is people don't know how to have government by consent. They just don't know. They may think they know, but they don't know unless they've become educated, because it takes an education. It takes an education to understand common law. Even though it's logical and sensible, it's something that the world has been looking for, different processes and ways to have government, and where the people could actually be free. Not that government stems from that point. Usually some power or authority seizes control and creates the government and so on. But of course, we're the second nation in the world to have a natural law republic. And people need to understand what a natural law republic is. You cannot take control of your country, your nation. It's an impossibility to take control of your nation unless you do it by committees of safety. Our founding fathers did it by committees of safety. And it's all there in history. We just have to follow their lead and do exactly what they did. Every county the people have to come together and seize control of their local government, and then seize control of those who represent them at the state level or represent them at the federal level. But from the county down, the people of the county can take 100% control, and that's where it starts. And as other counties are doing that, again, they collectively come together and they start to take control of their states. And all the counties within the different states, when you have 50% of the states really that are really focusing in on this and taking control of their states, well, now it's time to really take control of our federal government. But we could start to get some, satisfaction of having people who will represent us properly by controlling those people, because you get to control the person you send to Congress. You get to control the person you sent up to your state as state legislators or your governor or whoever. And when they don't obey you, okay, and this is very important to understand, because you have the statutory committeemen. The statutory committeemen originally was the original committeemen. That's who they were. They were the committees of safety, the original committeemen. But they were seized. They were seized by the Bar Association, who really started to statutorize them and set the process. So they were taken over, and they got party bosses, and the whole thing has just become just an abortion. It's really become totally corrupt. But the thing is, anybody who knows anything about committeemen and you understand and participated to some part of the process, but you'll find out when the party bosses talk to the people that they put into office, they obey. Why? Because they owe their job to those individuals. That's why. And we need to take that over, free and independent committee. And we need to take the process over. We need to understand how that works. And if you go out to our, back here on the Starter Committee of Safety, we've got the handbooks, okay? Click on that. We teach people on organization, how to organize the Committee of Safety. So we have the Committee of Safety Organizing Handbook. That's where you want to start off. But you also have the Committee of Safety Committeeman Handbook. You have to understand the structure and the process that they have put together. Our founding fathers ultimately have put this together, but the corrupt individuals seized control of this. But you have to understand how these things work. There are different committees. There's the General Committee, the State Committee, the Senatorial Committee, the Assembly Committee, the U.S. Congressional Committee. There's the Town, City, and Village Committees. So you have to understand all how that works and how to take control over those areas. So if you take control, the Committee of Safety comes in and takes control of the Senate, for instance, whether it be the state Senate or the U.S. Senate, okay, the individuals that you send into office, when you take control of those individuals, and they're not doing what needs to be done, they're not voting the way they should be voting, they're voting party, according to the party way in opposed to the people's way, well, then you got to correct them. And the chairman's got to give a call to that individual and say, hey, we put you into power, we can take you out of power. As a matter of fact, when we put these people in office, we're going to really interview them, and we get to lay the law down to them. We get to require them to learn the Constitution. I think as a standard, we should require them to take our courses. And if they're taking our courses, they're learning the Constitution. They're learning, how they're learning common law. They're learning about our founding fathers, and they're learning about their oath. And so they're going to learn these things, and then we're going to expect them to obey their oath and execute these things according to the will of the people and not the will of any party. In fact, we've got to get rid of parties, and we have a plan for that too. But in any event, taking back this whole system really starts locally, and we got to do it correctly. So these handbooks will walk you through and set the whole thing. Now, it is a lot of stuff, okay? Nobody's required to know all these things. Generally speaking, just to have a basic understanding is key, but certain individuals will dig down deep. The more and more people you get involved in your committees of safety, you get someone that's going to be really involved in the law side, and they're going to specialize in that. And they're going to grow better and better in this, and they're going to be able to be a good advisor and help really make the organization work properly. And people will learn as they go along, executing their right of due process. Now, if we fail to do this, then we fail to save this nation. Because no matter what Trump does and no matter what the military does, if they save this nation, I do believe they're going to, and they get rid of all these tyrants, and they give us back our nation, if people don't know how to have government by consent, you can't maintain it.
Exactly.
Jefferson said, if the people expect to be ignorant and free, they expect what never was and never will be. So the key thing is to try to convince these people to take a look at what we're doing, to take a look at these handbooks, to see the structure, the process, the procedure, and to learn. And again, it's a wrongdoing for anyone to try to take certain powers or authorities and to do it without a sense of honor, justice, and mercy, to do it without any kind of an understanding of the principles of common law. All of that's a wrongdoing. And I've had people come to me and ask me to help them set up, for instance, a grand jury. And I refuse to do it because we're working through that process right now. And you can't set up a grand jury that's going to be out there and just have this power and authority and just go on forever, especially if they're acting without a sense of mercy, because mercy has to be considered in every case, no matter what case you have. At the end of the day, the last thought is, can we give mercy in this case? Can we give a little bit of mercy? And the people have to decide whether they can or cannot do that. But again, look, there's nothing more dangerous than ignorance in action. So we may become the very tyrants we're trying to get rid of, is my point. We need to understand what we're doing, and we need to do it with principle. And NLA has been working for many, many years, 12, 14, 15 years. I don't know how long it's been since NLA came into being, I think, at the end of 2012. So what's that, 12 years? And we've been working on things before that, because I myself have been involved in this since 1999.
You were with Bob Schultz.
Yeah, with Bob Schultz, 2000, I was with him. And then after that, we've done a lot of other things. We did the political things, the Committeeman. We've been collecting information ever since then. So this website represents pretty much about 20 years of education, of information, of research, and putting this stuff together. And from time to time, we have error. We get corrected. But I think we've done a pretty good job really working through the research, and we don't make things up. Although in common law, when it comes to power and authority of the people, you can make it up as you go, as long as it's just. And we have the power and we have the authority to take these people out of power and out of authority. Out of the authority.
So if we continue as a committee of safety, we need to establish the committee of safety formally, make that relationship with the sheriff, and then come up with a quo warranto. Isn't that what you just said at the beginning, answering my question?
Yeah, pretty much. A quo warranto is part of the paperwork that you'd use in order to file and serve on these individuals on the board, demanding by what authority they act. That's the question of a quo warranto. And we've already...
Then we give the quo warranto to the sheriff, and then he'll act on the quo warranto after he gives the people time to do their restitution?
Well, the process that we set up was to do this is to, first of all, you have to have paperwork. You have to have your resolutions, okay? And you have to have all of your paperwork together. You want to have a seal. You want to put this into a book. You create a little book, go down to Staples, have it bound, or if you buy a bind, you can buy these things and bind your own paperwork. And you want to make it look very professional, nice, clean, neat paperwork. You want to have your seals on it. And then you want to serve that on any committee that you go to. First of all, the first order of business is connecting with your sheriff, organizing, preparing, and doing what you have to do to build that committee of safety up. And by the time you and then you have to approach the sheriff with your paperwork. You can do that. You can get that paperwork together in the first month. And then you could serve it on to, deliver it on to the sheriff with a copy of the book, Government by Consent, and let them know who you are. And it sets forth all of the information you need. And you let the sheriff know that, hey, we're going to have meetings maybe in 30 days or 60 days, whatever you figure. You want to give it some time for him to digest at least a good part of the book, to read your paperwork. The paperwork will explain to them, exactly how you set things up. You start with a charter. Right here on this page, you have a charter. Basically, it's just filling in the blanks, and this is pretty much it, although you'll add to this, but this is the beginning. And even if you don't add to it in the beginning, as time goes on, you will be adding to this particular paperwork, which is your charter. So you have to have your charter. You have to have your seal. And this is the seal we set up. We suggest everybody kind of follow this process so we're in uniform, county to county, across America. You have in my case, it's the Dutchess County in New York, and it says Committee of Safety Seal, and I put 1776. And people can change that date if they want. They can put maybe the date of the Constitution. They could put 1789 or 1791, which is the Bill of Rights. Well, whatever they think they want to put on that. But the bottom line is you do want to have a seal. You want to make sure you have the county name and the state name and the fact that it is the County Committee of Safety. The other thing that's a necessity that you have to do, and that is to put together your first resolution. Okay, and again, that's something that'll be added to as time goes on. You'll add to that resolution. We do suggest people to try to stick with what we have as a framework, and so that we're all uniform across the nation. And basically it lays the information, the plan of action, and it puts all the information. What this paper does, when you hand this to any committee or whoever you're going to be talking to, when you're talking with the sheriff, let's say, this lets the sheriff know exactly who you are, what you're doing, and by what authority. That's what it does to begin with. And they should take this very serious. Besides that, you're a vote, and your whole committee is a vote. And the sheriff should want to have your support. Just as much as we want his support, he should want our support. So when he reads the book, or at least skims through a lot of it, at least before the first meeting, or shall I say the second meeting. Your first meeting should only be 5 or 10 minutes long. It should be very short, just an introduction, delivery of papers, delivery of the book, an explanation of who you are as and that you're the Committee of Safety, and we'd like to talk with you in about a month or two after you get a little bit of an education and you understand who we are and what we're doing. Now, you should make copies of this, quite a few. I'd say make maybe 5 or 6 books, bound books that you're going to give, of course, one to the sheriff. Now, if you're going to go to the school board, okay, then you're going to want to bring a copy. If there's 8 people on that school board, you'll want to bring 8 copies, or whatever the case may be. And you're going to want to hand them out to the people, let them know. And that tells them by what power and authority you come by. And they see that you're organized, and they see the sheriff's with you or deputies with you. Okay? You have the quo wanto, Rick quo wanto, which, again, we've written out and put it together. It's generic. All you have to do is make it fit whatever board you're going in to talk to. Basically, it does the same thing. It does the same thing by what authority. You've got 7 days to lay this authority out. We want to see your oath, we want to see your bond, and we want to see your financials. We want you to tell us by what authority you act, and if you don't do that within 7 days, you forfeit your office. And then there's a process of going down to the county clerk, filing it there with the court and the county clerk, and it needs to be served. And what makes it really powerful is the sheriff being there, or his deputy. Sheriff, same thing anyway, but the sheriff is there, and you've given, you have one speaker, and you should flood the room with lots of people, but you should plan this, what are we going to talk about, what's the points, and who's going to be the speaker. So you won't have one speaker. You can have a couple of people kind of sharing that speaking, but one speaker. And a handing out of the papers and the sheriff there. And now you have a list of things that you're requiring this board to do. We suggest you start with school boards for numerous reasons. School boards will create a large committee of safety very quickly, because once you go to visit a particular school board, and there could be 20, 30 school boards in a county, 40, I don't even know how many. It could be quite a few, because every school district has a school board. So each one of these boards, you can go down, we lay this out too. You have the paperwork put together, but you're going to go down and you're going to go to real property. Every county building has an office called real property. And in that real property, you can get the names and address of every single person living in certain districts. It's broken down in many different ways. And one of the ways could be, in this school district, we want the names and addresses of everybody that lives in this school district. And then you put together, and we'll run some examples that people can use, or you create your own and so on. But you want to do something on a postcard. And you want to let these people know that you're meeting and what you're doing with the school board, that you're meeting to discuss things with your school board, and you want to bring a proper education back to the children. And we're going to be meeting at a certain date at a certain time, which would be your regular committee of safety meeting. They would come to that. They'd see the structure of the first 20 minutes or so of your meeting, and they'll understand that this is something that's just going on all the time. It's not just for this one situation. I think you'll get a lot of people responding to that. And then you get the discussion going on that particular day, what we're doing. We're dealing with the school. What problems do we know what's going on with the school? What do we want to address? What do we want to command? So on and so forth. Mm-hmm. Again, put all that together, and then you find out when that board is meeting. And you then make the plan to invite everybody to that board meeting with one speaker and all these people. It should be standing room only, and it should really flood out the door, because I think you'll get that kind of response, because they're really attacking our children. They're coming for our children, and people are starting to realize that now. So once you get that going, and you got all these people, and you got the sheriff, and you got your demands, and everybody's in one accord, and they still deny and go their own way, then you pass the papers to the sheriff, and he serves every single one on that board. They got 7 days. That's the power and the authority of the people, and you do that with every board, whether it's a town board, a village board, whether it's going up to legislators, whether it's going, again, to school boards. And you'll be building your committee of safety very powerfully, very quickly. People will start to get involved in coming to the meeting just by doing that alone. And again, if you think about it, if you have 20 or 30 school districts in a particular county, let's say, and you, every time you do this, you build up 50 or 100 people, just think about that in a course of a year. I mean, you literally could be a committee of safety of thousands or many hundreds. And that's power, that's authority, that's government by consent, that's taking it back. And that's how we got to do it. People need to learn the process, and you'll have experts that will come out of this. Believe me, there are certain people, I'm one of those people that, I get an interest and a focus on something. I'm like a pit bull with it. I just don't give up on it. And I want to get down to the minutest little understanding of whatever it is that I need to know, and a lot of.
What I was hoping to do was use this particular issue as a test case that we could do something about this fraudulent levy process. And it sounds like, from what you're telling me today, is that I'm trying to put the cart before the horse.
That's the problem. A lot, and we all make that mistake because we're tired, we want it done, we're angry. Well, we have to step back and calm ourselves down. We have to start talking in our meetings about everything that we do, that we come with a sense of honor, justice, and mercy. We take our time, we educate ourselves, we go in, and we have success. If you don't plan, look at, other than this, if you don't come in with power and authority, they ain't listening to you. They've already got everything set. They know what they're doing, and they're going to demoralize our children because they all these places have really been taken over. I mean, it's amazing how many people that they have sold their evil to, and and it works for them. Well, I'm
doing my best, John. I'm doing my best to listen and not cut you off, but I just don't know when to join in and share what's on my mind. What we talked about last week, the solution was that we should take the 90-hour course and put a lawsuit together Do you still think that we should do that as well?
What lawsuit? What kind of a lawsuit? What are you thinking?
Well, we have people that we need to hold accountable that have, like you said in your opening answer to the question, these people don't care about the law. They don't care about following the rules. They just do whatever they want to do because they know that nobody's going to hold them accountable. So now we have all of these things that are enumerated in that 9-page paper, and they're all violations of the procedure to be followed to put something on to put a school levy on the ballot. And so we want to hold these people accountable.
You don't need too much knowledge of the law in order to serve on them a writ quo wanto. We lay everything out on that, and then the process would then be to file with the courts and pursue it.
So the writ quo wanto would be the same, would solve the problem as well.
Generally speaking, it should, and
okay.
Now you have to have someone with a little bit of understanding to be able to move it through the court. So that does become a problem, and at some point, there's going to be some people inside of your committee of safety that's going to be interested in the common law on a very high degree, and they are going to become the people, eventually the people to represent legally the committee of safety, and anybody can jump in. That. So somebody's got to take in the committee of safety. Somebody should be taking this course, the 90-hour course. For the purpose to understand the court system. But again, you don't need a lot of knowledge for that because we can give you some instructions on it as long as people have some basic understanding. We can give the instructions. We can help with the paperwork because it's all generic anyway. You just have to take the generic paperwork and put in the proper information on what it's applying for. If you're applying to this kind of a board, a town board, a state board, a town board, or a school board or whatever, or if you're dealing with the legislators, and that's at a higher level. At that point, when you start to deal with the legislators, now you're going to already have a lot of experience because you've gone through the boards, you got your paperwork, you're picking up on a lot of the lingo, and at that point, someone will probably for sure understand and know the process, due process, how the process of law works, and be able to work the paperwork. But again, it is pretty simple because you can file the paperwork in with the clerk. Okay, you can go to the county clerk and you can file your paperwork, which for the court system to file your paperwork of your quo wanto, and move that into the court. But you may not have to go into the court because again, when you file paperwork, the way it's supposed to work, but they don't want to do it this way because they don't want to answer. They do everything they can to prevent themselves from answering, and that's one of the things we have to fix. But the thing is basically you can have court cases that never go before a judge, never go before a jury or anything, because the proper process is you write the paper, they respond, you respond. It's back and forth conversation. At some point in time, they start to realize, or should realize, if they're, as long as they're not working to fix the problem as far, illegally, and if that's not available to them anymore, then what's going to happen is they're going to break. They're going to realize they're going to lose, and the injury of them will be greater if they don't just work something out at this point and come to a compromise and do something. And that's the way it should be. But again, they try to pull it into the court. They try to get you thrown out, and they try not to answer, and that's the problem. And we got to get rid of that. That has got to go. That's one of the major problems in our courts. And when that's gone, then you're going to start to get some justice. I've been involved in a lot of different disputes before I even came to understand courts, how the courts work and everything, because I was a general contractor and a construction manager, and I got involved with, disputes. And when disputes came up, I'd represent the people that I would represent, and, you have the developers or the owners or whatever, where the conflict is between, the contractor and those individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And when you lay your case out, and as you look at the case, I know from my perspective, I always look at it this way: we have to admit where we're wrong, and we have to press real hard to get when we know what we're right. And so if we make the decision to go in to make the battle, then we're going to go in hardcore and reveal to them we're going to win here. We may lose here, we'll give in to that, but we're going to win here. And anybody that's looking at it with a sensible, logical mind will find that it's going to be a lot less cost to them by working the problem out, compromising, and coming to a solution instead of having to go to court. And usually when you do this on the job site, because contracts are usually written up that either an engineer or an architect on the site would be really kind of the judge in the whole process. So if a decision had to be made at the end of the day, that's the person who would make it, the person who understands how things works. They understand, the pains and the sufferings from this or that, whether it be from the contractor's point of view, from the owner's point of view, and who's right and who's wrong. And that has always worked out very well. And that's how a judge isn't really supposed to be into the case at all. There should be no judges in a court of law. The only one that should be in a court of law as far as working for the government would be really someone just to kind of monitor the case, okay? And that could be a couple of different individuals. I mean, even the sheriff can sit in as sort of the traffic cop. A judge
You did an excellent dissertation on that about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, the judge can sit in here because he also is a goodness, what's the word for him? I mentioned
Magistrate.
Magistrate. Thank you. And judges aren't the only magistrates. There's other magistrates. So any magistrate can sit in a court of law, but they can't make any decisions. Okay, that's always for the jury to make all the decisions. They just lead them along and help them along, and also make sure that the system that's like a traffic cop, making sure everything is done orderly and everybody gets a turn. It goes back and forth in the proper way of due process. And so the people are always the judges. I cringe every time I see a judge make a decision. You look at what's going on in Trump's case, what power and authority this judge has taken over. It's just unbelievable. I really cringe at this. It's so far off of the way things work, the way common law works. It's really pretty sad. So, anyway, we got to move.
I appreciate your input. One more thing before we go. Have you ever heard of an organization called biblicalcivics.com?
No, don't know it.
David Barton is involved with that. Mike Huckabee's got his name and picture in there.
Yep.
I think there's a fellow by the name of Rick Green, other people. There's some people that are going to the meetings that I've been going to. They're tending to lean towards them. Who do you think is... No, I'm thinking about a constitutional course. Do we have any courses that focus on the Constitution that can be brought to like a group of people, like once a week or something like that? I used to be involved with the Institute on the Constitution. That was Anthony Peruka's and his brother started that outfit there. They're out of the northeastern states there. But anyway, there's biblicalcivics.com seems to be something that's coming to the fore in the minds of these people. They say that they have something in the way of committee of safety that would do the same thing that we're doing, but I just don't think it is.
Well, I can tell you that David Barton really knows his stuff.
Yes, he does.
Individual.
I've been following David Barton for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Original Intent, that was his book. I read that book.
So,
how about, you said the same thing I've said about Bibles in schools. We both say that the first expense in Congress was included Bibles for the schools.
That's right.
How do we verify that? What is the what do we use as an authority to say that that's true? I've been looking for that.
Okay, we did a video which was posted up on YouTube and moved on and posted up to Rumble. I'll have to go looking for it, and maybe we'll discuss that next week. Okay, bring that up. I wrote a memorandum, and it lays it out, and it goes through the process of what our founding fathers said about the Bible. These are all quotes, and also their first order of business. The first order of the legislators, and also, of course, signed by George Washington, was to make the Bible the centerpiece of our education, because they understood that. Because we are a nation, and we operate under biblical principles. And the Declaration of Independence is a covenant with God, where we came to ask for His blessings and His mercy, and we wanted to live under His law. And that's what the Declaration of Independence is. It's not just the Declaration of Independence letting Britain know that we're separating from them. It's much more than that. It lays out the preamble, which is very short, only a few paragraphs, and it lays out the power and the authority of the people, the unalienable rights that we have, and we ask God, for His blessings to come and live under nature's God, God and nature's God, and by living under His law, we receive His blessings, and that's who we are, and that's how come we're such a different nation, and the Constitution that was written and the Bill of Rights that was written and put together, and of course the Declaration of Independence, which is the foundation of who we are as a people. That's the foundation of our law, and and living under that, has made us very prosperous, even though we've never done it perfectly. Returning to that, the blessings would be unbelievable. Just by being able to, and we can't return to that without God's help, because they've come and assaulted us, but they've also assaulted God's children, because in America, all over the world also. Anyway, but the fact that we are a Christian nation, we have that Declaration of Independence, which is a covenant with God. Now they're going up against God, and at some point in time, even Jefferson spoke about this. He says, how did he put it, if I can remember? I tremble for my countrymen. I'm going to paraphrase this because I don't remember exactly, but I tremble for
That's the one.
Because oh goodness, how is it? Not the just. Talks about his justice coming, because at some point God's justice is going to come. And these people, there's going to be hell to pay, so to speak. I wish I could remember that quote. It's a powerful quote.
Yeah, me too. It should be on the tip of my tongue, but it's not.
I think
I got that collection of quotes. Forget the author right now. Anyway, John, we could go on all night. I'll let you go for the rest of the callers you got there, and I appreciate your input. And we'll talk next week. I hope we can talk about that source we get for the Bibles in school is the first expense of Congress.
Yeah, I'll look up and pull things together. We'll breeze through the memorandum I put together, and I'll find out where I put that particular paper. It might be under education. Let's see. Let me just take a quick look. Topicals. Educational videos. It might be here. Slavery in America. That's a pretty powerful one. Court Access in the Common Law Introduction. Democracy versus Republic. A seminar that we put together. Founding Fathers and Slavery in America. Writ Mandamus, U.S. Supreme Court. ABA Abrogation of the Common Law. Amendment 2. Virtue. America's Foundation. That's pretty powerful. America, a Common Law Nation. Again. County Sheriff, the County Committee of Safety. Okay, surprised I don't have it here, but I know it's on the site, and it's also.
We'll find it.
But I'll put it together and we'll look at it next week. I'll make a note of that.
Great, looking forward to it.
All right, we need to move on. We spent a lot of time, but
okay, John, thank you so much.
All right, I try to get those people to come up and listen to tonight's program. Maybe it'll
We have a few people listening. I know we have at least one person listening. So
Okay.
I don't know how many others. Some other people asked me for the website again, so I gave it to them.
Uh-huh. Okay, great. All right, we'll talk again, Anthony. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. God bless.
Jeff, from you too. Jeff, PA, you got it. Joe, Mike.
Hi, John.
How you
Jeff
doing?
from good.
Yep.
Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. I talked to you for a couple minutes last week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you just said get a hold of Jan about the list of contacts for surrounding Committee of Safeties and stuff, and we did that. We reached out to them. And I just wanted to get into a few details this week, if it's all right. We are a Committee of Safety here in Allegheny County, which is county where Pittsburgh's located in. And Ross, our chairman, has spoken to you in the past, and we hold meetings once a month, sometimes more if need be. And we have a website, like I mentioned briefly. We have a Rumble channel. If anybody wants to visit those, our website is paaccos.org. So if anybody could jot that down and want to remember that, please visit it. But John, on a personal basis, we're dealing with a few things, and I've emailed, over the last few months, almost weekly, questions in regards to we're dealing with the county about our property status. We've wanted to pursue like the land patent process or the allodial title process, but you rather suggested that we can probably simplify that by just going to the county real estate office and having the property reconfigured as private instead of real or residential. And we've had a hard time trying to get correspondence.
Yeah, you may have to go to the town or the village or the city to deal with that. And but it's the real property is what collects all that information. But the authority of that is really found in the towns. So you have to change it on the books in the town or the village or wherever it may be. But let me strongly suggest focusing on other issues because all that's going to disappear. Property tax is unlawful. I mean, if they could take your property away from you because you don't pay them money, obviously you don't own your property. Of course, that's what they've set up. But we have to get that back, and it will come back. You see, once we get past evolution and we come back to law and order again, and the principles that we should be living by, okay, well, there's not going to be any more property tax because it's unconstitutional. It's slavery. It's a slave tax. Income tax is a slave tax. Same thing. Okay, the IRS is going to be gone. The Federal Reserve is going to be gone. It has to go because, the United States government is supposed to coin money. The legislators were given power and authority to coin money and to make only gold and silver as our money. We have to go back to that. That's what the Constitution says. And Trump is a constitutionalist. That's what we're moving. They're following the law, and they're allowing the people to see the lawbreakers versus those who are keeping the law. And it's becoming pretty obvious to a lot of people now that haven't been able to see it for the longest time. And reality is the way one perceives it. And they have changed our perception of the true reality of this world. And they've been selling us, a reality that leads us to really slavery. And people believe things they shouldn't be believing. They don't understand, and they're denying the Christianity of our nation. They're denying that they don't even understand what the differences of a republic and a democracy is. They don't know that our founding fathers had nothing to do with democracy. If you go into what is it, Federalist Paper number 10. Let me see if I can find something. Here's something James Madison said, and this is. He said, democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and have in general been short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths. And they've been working on making us into a democracy right in the time period when we were debating the Constitution. You go read the Federalist Papers, and it becomes very, very clear that we are no part of a democracy. Just because it's just logical to choose your representatives by vote. I mean, it just is logical. That doesn't make us a democracy. We are a republic, a people of law. And people don't know that, and people need to learn that, and that's the problem we have. So we need to be focusing on that, and those kind of things, because all the other stuff is going to fall away. We're going to become a republic again. It's going to be resurrected. We have to acknowledge God. Without acknowledging God, we get no blessings. Remember, in the preamble to the Constitution itself, not only is it talked about, going and requesting the blessings of liberty in the Declaration of Independence, in the Constitution, the preamble, where I'll read it: "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure the domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty." Liberty is a blessing. It comes from God. And if we don't acknowledge God and lift him up and acknowledge where it all comes from, then we lose it all. We can't have it. And that's why our founding fathers said only a godly people or a religious people is capable of having the government that they set up for us. And people have to come to terms with that. And again, a lot of people may kind of, for whatever reason, whatever they've been taught, whatever mindset they have, they kind of get upset with that. But they need to get over it, because Christianity accepts everyone, even the atheists. We accept everyone. Are you willing to live under this kind of under righteousness, under justice? If you're willing to live and you desire the liberties we have, well, you don't have to believe in God if you don't want to believe in God. You don't have to believe in the God of the Bible. You could be an atheist. You could be whatever you want. You can participate. Nobody is left out. And people need to realize that, come to terms with that, because that's who we are as a people. And if we don't get past that, and this has been something they've been working on, they destroy family, they destroy relationship with God, okay? They've destroyed our education, they've destroyed morality. Look what's going on. It's insanity. But anyway, that's where we got to go. So I suggest don't worry too much about that, because by the time you even get that through, it's going to be all over anyway. We're coming into when April, May, June, so we're 6 months. July is next month. We're halfway through the year. Within another next 6 months, it's going to be in the process of repair. So work on other things. Work on the things, taking back your schools, starting to do things, building your committees of safety up, educating yourself where you can, get to know the law and understand the common law. But and we have all that education here. Under education starts here. Okay, just click on that. Okay, and follow through the process here. We've got all kinds of education. So we have a foundation study. We have introduction to the Constitution course. We have a civics course. We have government by consent course, a militia course, jury administrators course, and then court access in the common law course. And then we have the higher education. And that, of course, is something that you lead in on your own. But we have lots of things on a higher education here. We have American history. We have lectures, Christianity in America, the Federalist Papers, founding documents, biographies, Continental Congress 2009. A lot of people don't even know about that one. We have the 5,000-year leap year. That, of course, is the book. We have that back both in audio, free, audio, and you can download the book. Free of charge, and we got that by permission. Got articles and essays. We have educational videos. We teach things on the law, the government by consent book. That's to purchase that. We got free PDF books. We have topical, essays and videos and different things of that nature. But we also have here the great works. Got a lot of the great works up here too. Okay, so this site is filled with lots of education, and nobody's going to get it all. Everybody gets a piece here and there. Many hands make light work. When we come together, we put our minds together, we work things out and figure it out and do what we have to do.
Yeah, John, you were saying about focusing on other things. We do have a few other things in focus simultaneously, and those other things are, I mentioned before in the email, a little dilemma here with what we call a per capita tax. And we're actually in the process of rebutting it in a letter. It's going back to the school district. I guess it's relayed through the school district. We already have school property taxes. But, we're asserting that it's, direct tax on one's head, literally.
All those taxes are illegal.
Yes.
Every tax you mentioned is unlawful. Oh, yeah, you're right. Right now we can't because they boxed us in. Yeah. But all that's too. It's gone. It's going to go.
And the third thing here, going back and forth between our state representative at the State House in Pennsylvania here, I requested their oath of office and surety/performance bond. And when I talked to the secretary for that office, she was unaware, of the term. She was actually called a surety bond. I said, no, I spelled it out for her. I was just giving her a brief summary of it. I'm still yet to receive a copy. I just emailed her tonight. But this all started with violation of their oath, because having researched recent legislation, I believe it was through the last summer. Anyway, it was a anti-gun legislation, and that opposes our right to carry, or a right to keep and bear here, and it's under Article 1, Section 21. That's our Second Amendment for PA, and it violates the U.S. Constitution, Second Amendment. And I was nice in the letter, and I just informed them that, you violate your oath without being real, combative in the letter or incriminating. And I was, providing him the facts, providing him, he's bound by oath, as per Article 6 of the Constitution. And he violated it, and I just wanted a copy of the oath of office and the surety bond, and they're kind of either ignorant or it's sort of an evasion tactic. But I was just wondering if this persists, if I should use the form that you have on the website, the enforcement letter, requesting identification and credentials. I think the form is called.
Well, let me ask you, do you have a relationship with your sheriff now? Is your sheriff part of the Committee of Safety?
Last time I spoke with our chairman, no, but I believe there was a brief contact. At least I believe somebody has sent him a copy of the book. Somebody has had to.
You have to have law on your side, and you have to go with power and authority, and you have to lay out your power, lay out your authority, and have your power with you. Your power is the sheriff in that meeting with you. And that's the relationship you have to get with your sheriff. He needs to understand this, and it should be laid out to him the first time he comes to the real meeting. After he's had the book for a month or two, he's reviewed a good part of it, if not all of the book. Look, if you could sit down, you could read a book in a week easily. I mean, and this book could be read in a week. I mean, if people want to read it, but you get a couple of months, they should be able to read through that book. But anyway, they see your paperwork, okay? And let's see, going back here to handbooks and things, you have to have your charter, okay? And you have to have your resolution, because the charter lays out what you're doing and who you are, okay? Just let me see if I can get just at the beginning. The purpose of the committee is primarily humanitarian. Protect, defend, and support the Constitution for the United States of America, and to assist the jury administrators in securing the rights of the people during troubling times. During normal times, the duties of the Committee of Safety passes all its duties to the elected committeemen. And we should get rid of the word elected. That's something that came in from, because we're not elected. Every one of us can just become committeemen. We don't have to get elected. This is government by consent. That's the power and authority to execute government by consent. During troubling times, the committeeman is to take back up the duties of the Committee of Safety. Okay, anyway, if you read through this, okay, it lays out what you're doing, what your goals are, what the objectives are, the subcommittees that you're creating, and this is just the beginning in educational committees, political committee, judicial committee, committee of correspondence, and then many other committees will be built as you go along. You'll figure out what you need, and you'll create a name for it, and you'll start looking into it and taking control of whatever you need to take control of. But it lays out who you are, what we're doing, and what's going on. And really, the details is in your resolutions, okay? Because your resolution really lays out what you're doing and how you're preparing to take control and by what authority and so on and so forth. So these papers are important to have. You have a seal. It should be taken down, and you get to bind it in Staples or Office Max or some other place. I have my own binder, so I forget what I paid for it, but it wasn't expensive, and I can bind as many as I want, and I can print off as many what I want. But you need to get these, and your sheriff needs to understand who you are, and when he goes through this, he's going to find agreement with that. Well, these are people trying to take control of their country, and I agree with them. And he should be getting his education. If you don't have that on your side, you don't have your power. Okay, a lot of people are skipping this step, and if you're skipping, and again, we don't have enough people, and I don't have enough time to make the phone call to all of these individuals. Hopefully, we'll be able to get professional at some point in time and hire people to actually connect with all of these people and to try to assist them to do things the right way, to convince them if they've taken a different direction, and if necessary, reform a new committee of safety because they're doing it wrong in that county with other people, but whatever has to be done. But you have to go in with power. And if you don't have power, they're not going to listen to you. So the thing is, standing there with a large group of people, you're serving a paper with a seal on it. You've already served papers on who you are. You've given them a copy of your charter, your resolution. They know what you're doing. They see the sheriff there, and he does the serving if they're disobedient, and you're demanding their oaths, their bonds, their financials, and they got 7 days to respond. And they have to tell by what authority they act to do these things, to think that they can ignore the people and do whatever they please. We never gave them that power, authority. We gave them the power and authority to do our will. That's what we gave them. Just like if you read the Constitution and you go into Article 1, for instance, which is the legislators, we've given them powers. We've given them 18 powers. We didn't give them 19. We didn't give them 20. We didn't give them 50. We didn't give them 100. They think we have. Okay, we only gave them 18 powers. You step outside of that authority, now you've broken your oath. And but people, how do they get away with this? They get away with that because we're ignorant. Because no one knows the law. They don't understand. You don't need a lawyer. You need an education. If you think you need a lawyer, you got a problem. Now, you might hire someone if you need a lawyer to assist you, but you need to take control of your own case. You need to take control of your own problems. You need to take control of these boards. The people need to do it. This is government by consent. We, the people, make the decision. We decide. And we do the best we can, and that's it. Our will and not your will. Because they're hired help, and we'll get rid of them if that's what we have to do.
Well, I think I mentioned that we do have a resolution. Our chair still feels that we need X amount of signatures to make it admissible or valid. I don't recall seeing where there's a minimum amount of support in the form of signatures needed behind it.
No. You don't need signatures. You just need a vote. The popular vote rules every committee, no matter what decisions you make. You discuss it, you take a vote, and you can always change it another time if you can swing the vote a different way if it's necessary. I don't know that it would be, but who knows? But as far as a signature on a piece of paper to file anywhere, it just requires the chairman's signature, and that's it. I mean, maybe the secretary too. But generally, it's just the chairman's signature and the seal. And
you have all positions.
They're holding a position of honor.
Yeah. We do have a seal. I actually was there at the presenting of it back in 2021 when we formed, just the 5 of us, and the photograph of it and all that just as proof. But, we have all positions filled still. Chair, co-chair, secretary, treasurer, and then any incidental. But the rest would just be, members, social
And
members.
you could see on the paper I'm sharing right now, it's got the signature, but you don't need all those signatures, but it's okay to have it. It's more powerful. And you don't need the chairman of correspondence in there, but you could have it if you want. Whatever you want to do, but you don't need like 100 signatures or any. You're the committee. This is the committee of safety. We are the people. We're the representatives of this county. Remember, we don't have government by majority. We have government by the majority that participates. And in each county, it's just 4 individuals that control your entire county, and those 4 individuals are controlled by 4 individuals on the state level. Okay, and those individuals are controlled by 4 individuals on the federal level. And so the whole thing is a captured process. Okay, but in any event, but we are the true committeemen, and that's the attitude you have to have. You have to come in with the attitude of power and authority, and again, honor, justice, and mercy. You come in with a good attitude. They can get mean and nasty, but we just have to do the right thing and, move things along.
Well, appreciate that, John. If I may shift gears for a minute here, just expound on some current events or some conjecture that's out there, in the social media and in the video platforms and stuff. And you've probably heard the phrase 10 days of darkness, okay, either through Q or general, video sharing and stuff. And from what I heard, that would be, communication blackout. What concerns me is I heard it's going to be temporary. They said 10 days, whatever, but it's not going to be indefinite. What concerns me out of that, though, is the resurrecting of it, if you will, the internet, telephone, whatever. There's been I heard some proposed legislation. I think it's called SB 1409, and that would require, I guess it's under the guise of protecting minors or children. Whoever wants to get on the internet after, recapturing the internet after these 10 days of darkness or whatever the event may, befall us if it happens and when, would require driver's licenses to prove, our access to gain access to that, and that would be pretty controlling because that would heavily restrict us, and I don't know how that would have anything to do with children anyway because, the age of majority being the age of 18, and a lot of driver's licenses are issued at the age of 16, sometimes younger than that, so it kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, but I don't even understand where this comes from or why anybody would try to require anything like that. We don't have to prove anything to anybody. The only thing we have to prove certain things, or maybe our citizenship if we're going to vote, or certain other things. But generally speaking, you look at the 10 days of darkness is, who knows exactly what that is. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. And I think the tripwire is whatever causes the military to move. If there was an atomic threat that was, thwarted, that would be something that would tripwire the military. They would move in. You're already starting to see uprisings in the streets. There was a thing that took place here in New York on the 6th, and they had, I forget what these people were even talking about, or I didn't get much of the detail, but they were demonstrating in the streets, and there was some video out there, and it was all anti-American stuff ultimately. And then there was a group of people who counter-demonstrated, and they brought, I forget exactly what it was, maybe a large flag or something like that, and they were demonstrating. And this is in New York City, and they arrested them. But the anti-Americans, they continued on. And it's going to get worse. It's going to get violent. They're already desecrating statutes. Look what they did in Washington. I heard about it tonight, about desecrating a statue across the street from, I think it was the White House, but is in Washington, D.C. And nobody's doing anything about it. There was a cop there in one of the situations. They kept doing whatever they wanted to do, and nobody did anything. But that's where we're at. That's the kind of thing that's going to explode across this nation. there are terrorists specifically in the cities, and not just in the cities. They've migrated out. But nevertheless, the cities are the big focus. And we're going to see a lot of uprising. We're going to see violence in the street. We're going to see desecration of things, whether it be statutes or religious. They're just going to destroy. And the military is going to have to make the move at that point. I heard that there's probably going to be an atomic scare. Maybe something that's intercepted over the ocean or something, or maybe something that goes off. I don't know, something. I just heard. Who knows what? We don't know. But that's all part of the 10 days of darkness, because at that point, when the military moves, and it could be, of course, just taking down the internet, but everything's going to probably go black, because it's got to go black for a while the military does what it's got to do. And that's my understanding. Who knows the exact plan? Who knows exactly what's going to happen? But generally, something of that nature. So that's my understanding, anyway. But I didn't hear anything about coming back, and I would be very much against having to show any kind of a identification in order to do something on an internet or do whatever I want to do. I mean, certain things, of course, you have to have an ID for, bank account, certain things. Going to vote, you should have ID, those kind of things, of course. But for anything else, no, I'm not going to participate, and I can't see anyone trying to enforce something like that.
I heard it was an opportunity while the country was weakened to exploit the matter, take advantage of the situation, and say, "Oh, we found it. We found the internet, or we rescued it. Here we go." But it's under new premises now. If you want to participate, it just would be, again, this is talk. But
yeah, I think that's just people talking and making things up, or whatever the case may be. Look, there's a lot of bad information out on the internet. Almost everything on law, common law, what people are doing out there, and doing the man on the land stuff, and going through the process that actually the enemy has set up. It's just bad information. And, I operated under some of that bad information myself in the beginning, because I believed what they were saying. But my research started to see contradictions. And I want to hold it a new, different way, but I did understand a lot of that stuff. I filed a paper, what they call it, a declaration. I filed it with the county of who I am, and that's not necessary. None of those things are necessary, But yeah, I don't. There's nothing that doesn't make any sense to try to have move the internet somewhere to have ID to get. That's all. I don't. That's insanity, I think. My opinion.
Make it known that it's been talked about, but just so nothing's catching us off guard. Like oh, I remember that, or just like the unexpected. But that's just like hearing about. I'm sure you heard about the World Health Organization with the treaty. I don't know how they have any power, being a non-government entity, to enforce a pandemic treaty on our sovereign nation.
Of course, this administration would go on along with something like that, but it's up to us to resist it.
Yeah,
I'm going to resist it all. Look, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I hear about the new pandemic moving through now, and they're starting talking about it. It's insane, and I'm not going to that stuff. I didn't participate in the first one. I'm not going to participate in this one either.
I'm not playing now, and just like even the Trump show trials, I understand it's probably just for optics, because we pretty much know, most of us that are privy, this is already planned out. All these tribulations and stuff, and he knows the end. Trump, meaning Trump, he knows how the outcome. But the only thing that gets me is the principle of it, just the show of due process, or the lack of.
Well, the main thing is to wake the people up. If the people were woken up, we could have fixed this 4 years ago or 3 years ago. We would have fixed it when it hit us. But there wasn't enough people to be able to take care of the business. People wouldn't understand. But people are beginning to understand. That's why this whole thing is going the way it is. This is the way it had to be. I never anticipated 4 years, but now that we're in that fourth year, and I look at things and I realize this is the way it had to be. There's no other way, because we're still, we may have 65, 70% of the people, but we still need more. We have to have as much people as possible to realize what's really going on. And then when the exposure comes, when the world starts to realize what's really been going on behind the scenes, it's just going to be unbelievable. And it's going to be hard to really comprehend and accept some of the evils we're going to hear about, what they've been doing with our children for the longest time. And, the sex trade with children. Never mind just people that are at least grown up, but to take these children, that's going to be the real death for these people.
Oh yeah, I hear about that all the time, even with underground, subterranean stuff, crazy stuff. It's very hard to swallow and accept, but the longer people follow that, the more, I guess, desensitized they get, more receptive. It's still hard to fathom that there's societies that are literally underground and tunnels and stuff and trafficked and you've probably heard about all the
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things. Hey, we're going to have to move on because I realize it's getting late and we still have people in the queue. So
I could just leave a couple contacts if you're always looking for an interview opportunity.
Anytime.
You probably heard of Red Pill 78 News. I don't know, Zach Payne, he's always doing interviews Friday nights, Saturday nights.
I think we were on Red Pill. Jan, were we not on Red Pill once before? I think we did some interviews. I got to go look back. I know we've got them. We got a lot of interviews we've had recorded and posted, and I think underneath here. Let's see. Mission statement.
I sent him a book of yours, Government by Consent. He actually opened it on camera one time around Christmas when I had time to mail it. And I was hoping he would have a follow-up with interview because I put a bunch of information in there about your contacts and your name and what we do, being Committee of Safety and at the National.
What's the guy's name?
Jack Payne.
What is it?
Jack Payne.
For some reason you're falling away. You're saying Kane? Jack Kane?
Jack Payne, Jakpaine.
Right. Yeah, that's familiar to me. Red Pill sounds familiar. I don't know whether I've been on that program. I think I was, but I don't remember. But yeah, here's some NLA radio interviews that we had. So I'm just looking. Red Pill.
78 News actually is his website and Rumble channel. He's in Florida, same as Dave Fishman of X22.
Yeah, if you can connect us with that, we'd I definitely would be interested. There's some news stations we're on down in the city.
He takes calls live, too, as the show's being conducted, so you can answer questions. They can ask you questions. Zach can ask you questions, and you both can...
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Can you make the connection, then?
At the time.
I'm sorry?
About 2 to 3 hours in length if you have the time, if you ever want to, Friday and Saturday nights. It's called the
Friday. Look, I'll spend as much time any day as long as I'm, Monday nights I can't do it, but other than that, I'll do a 2 hour, 3 hour program, doesn't matter to me. So. Yeah,
because I think exposure, and then people can see.
Okay, well, let's try to make the connection. Why don't you drop a line? Put a line to mail@nationallibertyalliance.org and just ask for my phone number, and I'll see it, and I'll give you my phone number, and we can talk, and maybe we can make the connections.
Sure. Yeah, and then there's other people I'll gradually relay to you as well if that don't work out, or if it does work out, and then you can just go do your rounds from there, and then just keep getting our name out there.
All right. Well, anyway, send a short email to mail@nationallibertyalliance.org, and just say Jeff from PA. Here's my phone number. Put attention, John, in the subject matter, and I'll give you a call, and I'll give you my number, and we can communicate. Try to connect.
Sure, John. Okay. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll let you be now, and I appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks for the call, and we'll take our next caller now. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, Mike, you got the mic. What state you from, Mike?
Hello, John. Mike in California.
Mike from California. Go right ahead.
I just got a couple of quick questions. I spoke to you last week about moving my case from state court to federal court, Now, I've got a court date set up for next Monday at the state court. Now, when I file this paperwork and serve the court, does that cancel that court date, or do I still need to show up for that?
Well, once you make the move and it's officially done and everybody's been served, that should cancel it. I wouldn't worry about necessarily about going to the court at that point if you got the actual move. But if it's in the process and hasn't happened yet, or you're not sure, you should show up just in case.
Okay. And how will I know? How will I be sure that it's all? I mean, once everybody's served, can I be sure that
everybody's served? It's done. Yep. Once you know that the serving has been done to everybody, it's filed in the court, then you know.
Okay, very good. Another question I have on the same case, I filed a notice of motion, show cause, denial of jurisdiction. They never answered that. I gave them 30 days in my paperwork. Should I file a default on that, or do I just let it be at this point?
You put a notice of no motion on the top page, right?
That's right.
Just a one-pager notice of motion telling them exactly and how much time they have to respond.
Yes, that's right. I gave them 30 days, and it says in case of your failure to answer, judgment will be taken against you by default for relief demand.
Go do an affidavit of default and file it with the clerk and look for for it to be executed. I don't know if the sheriff has to be involved in it or what. Are you looking for something, or just to close the case down because I
just want to close the case down. But that leads me to another question. When I sue these people for violating my rights, is $1,000 real money per person? Is that reasonable in my case? Do you think the court's going to think it's reasonable, the federal court?
That's very reasonable. That's what I do. Look at who can establish a price on a violation of the right of due process or any of your unalienable rights. I mean, look at you. What's that thing with that? Well, I've heard of cases where $1 million just for violating someone's rights, and that's in the regular process of the law, the way they run it. But $1,000, depends on what a silver is going for. Now, I understand it's like about $30 an ounce. Is that right?
Last time I looked, it was it was a couple of months ago, and it had hit 30.
All right, and Morgan silver dollars is usually a little more, but in any event, and that's what I put. You got to make sure they understand what you mean by real money, and when you do real money, you want to do a footnote and be very specific in the footnote what real money is, and I always go for Morgan silver dollars. Make sure. So that's reasonable. Then you could take it to the clerk and file your affidavit of service, and then you could take it to the judge, get the signature, and then take it to the sheriff and have it executed.
Okay. Now, so I file a default and I just take it to any judge, or do I need to schedule?
First of all, you have to file an affidavit of default.
Okay. All right.
To the clerk. The clerk should be able to sign off for it. You may not need the judge. You can ask the clerk if you need a judge's signature on it too. But as long as it's clear, okay, the clerk has the power. The court clerk has the power to make that signature, and that's enough to take to the sheriff.
Okay.
But ask them about it if they think that if you need to get a judge's signature on it also. I don't think so.
Okay. If I do need
a judge's signature is that if your wherefore clause wasn't really clear enough.
Yeah, actually, I think it's pretty clear. So I think I'm okay on the wherefore. If I do need a judge's signature, how do I get access to the judge? Do I need to set a court date to speak to the judge, or do I just ask the clerk to take it back to the judge, or how does that work?
Yeah, you ask the clerk. You go to the court during the time periods at the operation, and you just go to any of the judges. I mean, you go into the building, you go up to one of the judges. Each one of their judges have their own places. You could just go in there, any of their offices, and you'll see their court clerk, the judge's clerk, and you tell them you want to talk with the judge, and they'll ask what it's about, and they may ask, well, let me take the paper in, let me go talk to the judge. He'll talk to you, or she'll talk.
Okay. All right, and they're going to sign off on the default when it's actually against them. How's that work?
If it's necessary, a judge will sign off. Will have to sign. Usually, a judge has to sign off on different things. Let me think about it for a minute, because I did have to get the judge's signature one time. I'm trying to remember what the details were and why I had to do that. Yeah, this was on an arbitration case, so it wasn't a court case per se. We arbitrated. I won certain part of the arbitration, and then I had to go and take the paper and have a judge sign off it to take it to the sheriff. But again, if it's a default, then all you have to do is do an affidavit of default and bring it to the clerk. And the clerk will look at the paper and see, well, everything's pretty clear here, so they should be able to sign off, seal it, and you go to the sheriff. So.
Okay. And then what's the sheriff do with it?
Collects. He goes and collects for you. Are you looking for $1,000 or real money for each individual?
No, this was for my denial of jurisdiction. I don't think I asked for that in the state case. I did when I moved it to federal court, which I haven't filed yet.
Jurisdictional challenge?
Yes.
And what court were you in? You in
state court. State court.
And you did a jurisdiction challenge, and so it's going up against a judge.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking through my paperwork.
You might have to move that up to an appeal for that. I don't know, to be honest with you, on that one, because again, no clerk's going to sign off on that. And the judges. It has to be decided some way. You see, that was the problem I had in the case that I'm still involved with, and that was with a traffic ticket in a town court and denial of my due process. I challenged the jurisdiction. They ignored it, and I had to move it to state court to deal with it.
I see. Okay.
So you have to move to the next level up. And in this case, you're in the state court. You go to the appeal.
Okay. So, but I don't need to do that before moving to federal court, right? I can just move the case to federal court?
I wouldn't even go to federal court till you go to the appeal first, because the federal court will kick you back unless you go to the federal court for denial of due process. So it's not necessarily that you're challenging the jurisdiction, but I would go try to get that through since that's the process you started to move through. I would just go up the ladder, so to speak, and try to get a decision on the appellate court. And it really, it shouldn't really cost. I think in a state court they may hit you for $35. It shouldn't be for anything. You shouldn't have to pay for anything, but they're going to ask for a few dollars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. I certainly appreciate your help.
Okay.
Thanks, John. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks, Mike. You too. Let's take a next call at Dawn. We're running over time, so we're only going to spend a minute or two with each person to get through everybody, and then we can talk some more next week. But Dawn, you got the mic. What state are you from?
Hey, John. It's Dawn Devereaux from California. I talked to you once before about my exposure in the nuclear power plant. I don't know if you remember that call.
Vaguely, but go ahead.
Well, anyways, I got poisoned in a nuclear power plant. And the good news is I finally got my attorney to file the paperwork in court, because obviously this isn't, these are big entities. It's not something that I'm going to be equipped to do on my own accord when the utility has like 40 attorneys. So we're finally in court. My work comp case. It's been 2 years since my exposure, and my work comp case is still in the appeal board, but I'm hoping to have a status update by the end of June or the latest the end of July, because their doctor only has so much time to respond back. But the thing is that I don't know if you know anything about this. Do you know about the payment bonds and the performance bonds that the courthouse uses whenever a case is in court? Or do you know anything about the performance and the payment bonds?
The thing I know about the bonds, is that you can go after their financials, their bonds, and their oaths, and that's the beginning of the process. And you could take your case to the board for the bonding company, and they could make a decision for you, and you don't even go to the regular court system for that. But I don't think you're going to get the kind of money you may be looking for. Have you got cancer or something, or some kind of an illness and sufferings that you go?
Yeah, no, I got I got really poisoned really bad.
You have cancer at this point?
No, I don't have cancer, but like my body is, from what they're telling me, my body's decomposing because of the level of nuclear waste that's on me. So I'm having bone problems, nerve problems. I've been on so many different things. I'm taking Aceta Redox, which is like a.
The lawyer's not charging you anything, is he?
Say it again. Sorry.
The lawyer's not charging you anything to take to court, is he?
Oh, no. It comes, the attorney. She gets a percentage.
Right. They ask for a third, but you should negotiate down to 25. But
25.
Yeah, well, I would do that anyway. Look, at 25 is much more reasonable than a third. And, they push a little too hard for that. And believe me, I think you have a good case, especially if they're realizing it and taking the case on. They'll probably do it for 25%. But if you're already sealed in on the third, then you're in on the third. So I wouldn't get too concerned about it at that point. But, yeah, you should be able to get something out. As long as you can prove you've been injured, that's all it takes for every injury.
I have plenty of documentation. Plus, I also have a confession from them, from an email prior to me entering the plant, that they were aware that people were getting exposed, but they also put that the exposure was non-hazardous, which there isn't any radioactive isotope on the planet that would be non-hazardous. So, yeah, I have plenty of documentation. I actually talked to Karen Silkwood's attorney, and that's how I got my attorney. If you saw the movie Silkwood, that's how I ended up getting my attorney.
Well, here in New York with the 3 Mile Island incident, a lot of people don't realize hundreds of thousands of people have died of cancer from that release, and it may even be in the millions. I lost my sister and my brother-in-law to that, and they lived in Pennsylvania, and trying to think how far. They must have been at least 80 miles, 70 miles away, but that's how far, the release had back in those days in the 3 Mile Island thing. We almost lost the entire Northeast. We almost lost the entire Northeast. I could not believe when they finally released the truth about this thing. And I don't even know why we even play around with nuclear power. I really don't. We shouldn't be.
Well, this is the the reactor I was at was one of the very first ones built on the globe, and it's been shut down because it was a failed facility site. But the doors have been shut since 1960, and so they just opened the doors 2 years ago to start the decommission process. And honestly, they probably should not have allowed anybody in there because they don't have any material safety data sheets, and they're not really up to speed on what chemicals or contaminants are in there. They probably should have done some testing before allowing contractors to come in, but they didn't. So it is what it is, you know.
Do you have a question or anything concerning that? Because
Well, I just wanted to know if you knew about the performance bonds, was because now I have a case and I want to start doing my homework, you know, before we actually show up to court, because my attorney filed a couple of weeks ago.
whose performance bond might you be looking at?
Well, I know that when cases go to court, that the judge, you know, like they basically, because it's me, the injured party, right? Or maybe, yeah, I don't know. They liquidate performance and payment bonds, and
Whose bond are you looking to consider to go after? The judge's
I'm not even 100% sure. That's why I would like, I want to start doing my research, you know.
It sounds like you're going after a corporation, and it wouldn't be looking for bonds there. A performance bond, generally, at least what we talk about, and there are bonding for other things. I mean, I've done work on streets where you have to pull bond out, pull a performance bond out before you break the street.
The bid bond.
Water lines or whatever it is that you might do, and that's really, you know, protecting the town or the village or the state, depending on where you're doing the work at, as a contractor. So there's different kinds of bonds and performance bonds, but a performance bond, as far as what we normally talk about here at National Liberty Alliance, is usually by a bond that somebody who's elected or appointed individual, they have to have performance bonds. So those are the ones we chase. To try to get hold of their bonds and their oaths and their financials. And then you could potentially solve the problem without even going into the court, you know. But you know, I don't know what kind of a bond, you know, who you'd be interested to chase.
Well, I mean, I heard one time an individual that worked for GE and actually developed some type of technology for GE, and
you know what?
He took them to court and he put a lien on them.
Well, that's a different story. That's a different story. But you know what may be possible is that the corporation, the company that owns the plant, you know, the nuclear plant, that
corporation.
Wherever they were at, maybe the local government required a performance bond from them. Maybe that's what might be looking at. But with that, I got to move on because it's real late and we've got two people and we got to close down. Okay, but we could talk more next week if you want. But that's probably the bond you might be looking or thinking about. I would think that they would have to have one because it's a danger to the people of what they're doing. I mean, you know, again, as a contractor, when we used to break open streets to run water lines, sewers lines, or drainage lines, or even electrical repair or anything, we'd have to put up a bond before we'd break the street open, and we'd be able to cover any damages that we might incur at the process of doing our repairs or installation or whatever it is that we might be doing. So I'm sure, I'll tell you, I'm sure that probably that corporation was required to put up a bond in order to operate a nuclear facility. That's probably the case.
Would it be like listed in the county that the facility is located, or
just go down to the town? It had to be filed with the town. What is it?
Well, there's no way I'm going to go over there because it's like 7.5 hours away.
Oh no, you could do this over the phone and through the mail.
Okay.
Find out who to talk to. But I got to move on because it's
Okay.
really...
Thanks, John. Have a good night.
You too. All right, we're going to get two other people we're going to try to get through. Asulu, how you doing?
I'm fine, John. How y'all doing?
I'm doing good. What's on your mind?
Great. Yes, I just have a quick question about that fencing requirement that they are bringing out. I guess it's for small business to identify their beneficial ownership filing. Is that a mandatory requirement?
I'm not sure. Say this again. What's your question?
It's a fencing, FINCEN. They say it's a federal, new law that they come out with for small business to that they need to file the name of their beneficial ownership.
No, I don't know anything about it. I'm not familiar with it.
Okay. I can probably get the site and probably send it if that's okay.
Yeah, if you get information on that, you send it to mail@nationallibertyalliance.org, and we can get a little educated on it.
Okay. I can do that. All right. Thank you. That's it.
Okay. All right. We'll take our last caller. Let's see. Is it Richard?
Yes, sir, from Florida, North Dakota. We've been talking back and forth. I'll try to make this real quick.
Yep.
I hope you can answer it quickly. I found out that the judgment I have had a statute of limitations on it. And what's been in question is to determine what was the claim for relief. It was on a contract for a revolving line of credit at a bank.
Okay, hold on. You have a judgment. It's against you, or you have a judgment on someone else?
It's against me.
Okay, so there's a judgment against you. And the filing of that judgment against you was beyond their statute of limitations. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Okay. I'll read you the actions having 10-year limitations. So the following actions must be commenced within 10 years after the claim for relief has accrued. The judgment was actually 6 years after the claim for relief has accrued date. It's actually October of 2012, or excuse me, 4 years afterwards, and they filed in October of 2015.
Look, it sounds like a slam dunk in the court for you to just file the fact that they're beyond the statute of limitations.
Thank you. Okay, how do I do that?
I'm trying to think of, there's a term for that. They have a term for that. But by the way, on the other side of the coin, though, under common law, there's no such thing as a statute of limitation. As long as the case can be brought and there's enough witnesses, or there's enough evidence and hasn't deteriorated, if the case can be held up on its own, then the case could be brought, and if it can't be held up, then you're not going to get anywhere with it. But they do have statutes of limitations, and right now at this point in time, I'd take advantage of the fact that that's what I think the way it should go. So,
so
that's it.
What I'm trying to buy some real estate, a home. And the title company came up with, I have this judgment out there against me, and of course the North Dakota Housing Association is in conjunction with FHA, and he said that was one of the conditions, I had to pay off that judgment. I said, no, I don't know it. And so I want to be armed with some information.
You have to pay off the judgment to make. You're selling the property or buying property?
I'm in the process of it.
Of what? Buying or selling?
Buying.
And what does that have to do? What does the judgment have to do with you that you have to pay it off before you can buy a piece of property?
That's what the title company said. There was an outstanding judgment against me, and they're seeming to
So
think.
what does that have to do with anything?
Well, they're saying it's going to follow the purchase. That judgment I have is going to go on there, and that's going to put a glitch in the title. But as I read the statute, it has to do with if I was selling some property with this judgment, I'd have to deal with it.
Well, look at the only concern would be they'd come to try to apply a lien against that property, but that would have nothing to do with them. It would be a second lien anyway. The original
Well,
lien.
they're making it a condition that I have to do it, and it's holding up the whole
Well,
thing.
look, if the lien was, if this judgment was filed against you, now again, did you go to court? Did
No.
you go to court?
That's the thing. This whole thing. I've never got a single notification, neither by mail, but personally, a sheriff deputy.
Take it into
to be an officer.
the court.
There's been no notices served. Actually, I think they're ghosted documents because I can prove that I was out of town. In fact, I was out of town and out of the country.
Right. Look at
on 3 different servers that said they personally served me. So
this is what you need to do. Do you know how to do a notice and demand?
No.
Okay, well, you have to learn how to do a notice and demand.
I've got a copy of all the documents that they filed with the judgment.
I'm trying to tell you how to deal with it, though. What you need to do is you need to go, if you go to Education Starts Here, come down to Law, then come over to Court Forms and Process. And you'll see information on how to do a notice and demand. We also cover a notice and demand in our Court Access and the Common Law course. So you can take the course if you want also. But here's a demand for oath and bond. Let's see. Notice and demand should be instructions, reforms, traffic, challenge, jurisdiction, move for cause, habeas corpus enforcement. Here, notice and demand. Okay, there it is, notice and demand. Just follow the process in here. Make sure you serve it. Have someone else serve it. You want to get an affidavit of service by someone who's not part of the case to do the service. The best thing to do is to have the sheriff do it. I know some places it'd be like $35, another place $50, whatever they charge. In any event, you have the sheriff serve the notice and demand. And you could do it through the mail too, but it's much more powerful having the sheriff. It's more official.
What is that notice of demand doing?
Well, it gives them X amount of days, 30 days usually, to respond to. In this case, you want to put the questions, concerning this whole thing, and when this, whatever questions you want to get answered concerning this case in order to win in court, because this is just first process, and that may be.
Let's kind of fast forward to the beginning of this conversation. Okay, way beyond that. What I want to know, what I found out is that the statute of limitation has far been exceeded for them to do any more actions. In fact, they had a few of them. I got copies of them in there.
That's where the notice and demand comes in. You're making the point to them, the notice and demand. They got 30 days, and it's like a default in a court case. If they default on that, then you just go down, file in the court, and do a show cause on why judgment shouldn't be taken concerning whatever it is this case may be, and you make the point that a notice of demand, they defaulted through that process, and now they have
the judgment has already been done, October of 2016.
Yeah, but you're challenging the fact that a judgment hasn't really even taken place, that you have no understanding, no knowledge of it. It was done at a time period that was beyond the statute of limitations. And you have no knowledge of this. You've never been served.
What I'd like to go is that's already there. Okay, but what I need to file, the statute of limitation has been exceeded. That judgment is no longer valid for action.
Okay, but you need to ask the questions that you want the answers to in that notice and demand. They have to answer, and if they don't answer, if they don't deny, they agree. And in the end of that thing, you're telling them what you're going to do should they default. You lay this whole thing out. Go through and look at the notice and demand, and try to understand the process and what it's actually doing. So you're asking them to show proof of that you were served.
I don't care. It's on the books. Okay, it's on the public record, and according to federal law, they cannot disclose something that or take action on a that's past the statute of limitations.
Well, that's
so what I'm saying is that it's expired. It's expired. They can't do anything more. I just want to file a notice. This thing is expired.
What do you think your process is going to be then? You have to
That's what I'm asking.
I'm telling you, you start off with a notice and demand that they're going to default on the notice and demand most likely, or they're going to give you answers that's not true or something, The point is you want to know exactly how this judgment came about, that you have no knowledge of it, that you're only discovering it because you're going to buy a piece of property and you got a problem.
I know about it. I just didn't get any of the notices. But what I'm saying is that it's expired. The statute of limitation from which they can take action. Okay, I'll read it again.
Okay, well,
no action can be taken beyond the 10 years past the claim for relief as accrued.
That's the point. That's one of the points you want to make in your notice and demand that they got to answer. How could they go about filing a judgment or filing a case when the statute of limitations had already passed? That's one of the things. But there's probably a lot of things you want answers to if you think about it, and you put it in a notice and demand. They got 30 days. It doesn't cost you a penny except for the $40 or $50 that you have to pay the sheriff to serve the papers. And now
they're in Colorado.
Okay, so
in Colorado.
In Colorado, you could do that through the mail. You don't have to travel.
I don't have 30 days. I've got to get this thing done by July 1.
No,
I'm just saying the statute. What do I got to do? What form do I file that the statute of limitations has been expired on this particular judgment?
Look, no matter.
Doesn't matter if I go through the process. I can do that later. But for now, the statute of limitation has expired. They can't do anything.
And a court process to go through that process and to deal with that problem probably take at least 90 to 120 days at least, just going through the court system.
Can't you isn't there a document I can just file underneath it, have it filed a public record?
No,
according to federal law,
there's a judgment, and you've got to challenge.
Anything past the statute of limitations is unlawful to report it. It should have never been on the conditions. What I'm getting at, it should have never been on the conditions on the title company's report.
You got to go through the due process to deal with that problem. I don't know of any other way. Maybe there's some other way that I'm not aware of, but
can't we just file this statute of limitation?
No, can't happen. You got a judgment on the record and the subject. There's nothing else to talk about. Now you have to challenge that judgment. Okay. Now you're going to have to get into court to challenge that judgment. There's no other way to get around it.
I think you're missing something.
Way to deal with it.
Action upon a judgment or decree. Okay, an action upon a judgment or decree of any court of the United States, of any state or territory, has to be commenced within 10 years after the claim for relief has accrued. The claim for relief date.
You've got to take that into court. There's no other way. You could win in court on what you're telling me right now. If you can show the dates and everything else, you can win in court on that issue alone. I would still start with a notice and demand and let them know about the damages you're going to go after them for concerning. You can read the notice and demand and see if it's something you want to work with. Or you can just go straight into the court. But either way, it's going to take a lot more than 30 days. You got to give the other side time. You got to go into. There's no other way to overturn a judgment than to go back into the court. I know of nothing.
I don't care if I'm going to overturn. I just want to get it so it's noticed that nothing more can be done with it as it sits right now because of the statute of limitations.
You have to have it removed. In order to have it removed, you have the judgment removed. In order to have the judgment removed, you're going to have to go to court. I don't know of any other way.
What I'm asking my question, can I put a notice in there that the statute of limitation date is this date?
And where do you want to put it? Where do you want to put it?
On the record, on the public record.
You can put it on the public record, but I don't know that it's going to do anything to deal with your problem. You have to get a decision. You got to get that cast out. A notice and demand might deal with the whole problem, okay? Because go read the notice and demand, because it's the end part that really is the power and the authority. Because you're telling them if they're not going to respond, then you're going to respond for them on their behalf, and this is how you're going to respond. You spell it out. So if they default on that, that is enough to take into the court, and at that point it could be overturned just on that default. Now, hopefully the judge, they're going to obey the law, you know. But again, you're going up. Who's taking the judgment now? Is it an institution, a corporation? Who's got the judgment?
A lawyer firm. It's a bank that assigned it to a.
Oh, okay, the bank. Okay, going up.
What if I went to him and asked him for, I'll give you $500 just to make this thing go away. You can't do anything more with it. But there's a lot of other things involved in it I didn't want to get into. But I just wanted to put on notice that the statute of limitations is expired. Nothing, what FHA is concerned about, that something's going to come out long down the road that's going to cloud up the title. But it doesn't apply to me. As I read the statute, it doesn't apply to me, the buyer. It applies to the guy who's selling the property that has that judgment on it. It doesn't apply to me. That's what I'm reading on here.
Well, I agree. I agree with you. I don't
That's
know
what
why.
I'm wondering. So,
You have a block here, and you got to deal with that block. And you might have to go and pay a lawyer to.
Yeah. Well, I can go to the lawyer, but I'd like to be armed with some information. But wouldn't there just be something that just to show this guy to show FHA or North Dakota Housing, there is nothing that's going to happen to this property we're buying because of the statute of limitations. It says very clearly.
Look,
any action or proceeding for the foreclosure of a mortgage has to happen within 10 years from the date of accrual. That date of accrual is very important to understand, John.
Well,
that's not the date of the judgment. That's the date of when the event occurred.
You're
when
trying.
They had legal claim.
Look, hold on. You're trying to change a policy and procedure, I presume, is why they're holding this up. They got some kind of a policy and a procedure concerning this situation on their books as an operation for a title company or whatever it is that you're dealing with. So you're not going to turn that over. You're not going to change that. Okay, a lawyer might be able to let it be known that they're going to be, if they could write a letter potentially speaking and let it be known if they're going to consider doing this and hold this up, and it's going to injure you and they're going to be held liable for that injury. You could do a notice and demand on them, okay, or you can have a lawyer.
Title company.
Huh? Yeah, on the title.
On the title company.
But I got.
They're the ones that are doing the disinformation.
Yeah, if I got to go. If you have any more on this, we can bring it up next week. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I just wonder if there was a form you could file.
Don't look at the notice.
It's expired. It's expired, John. What do I have to do?
You have no experience or knowledge of the notice and demand. Go read it, and you might be able to say, "Whoa, I can use it either way. I can use it on the title company, or I can use it on the people who took the judge. I'd use it on both of them." And you might be able to press it through. Or you're going to have to talk to a lawyer to write a letter and see if he agrees with you, and he could put a letter or a threatening letter, let it be known. You either do to get business going and stop, because if you continue preventing this business arrangement to go through, whatever you're doing, then they're going to be held liable for the losses and damages. And that's that. So those are the only two things I can see that you could do. And again, or you go straight into the court with it too. So.
Yeah. All right.
So with that, we got to go. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. We've come
Nothing's
to the
ever
end.
Simple, is it?
Okay. Well, go read the notice and demand. You might find the power that I'm talking. There's a lot of power in it. I'm telling you.
Okay. I'll read it.
Okay. We've come to the end of our. We're going to close down for now.